God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe. Ow!
No, I'm hurt enough already.
Oh, gee, I didn't see you. See, I was just walking.
I went to school at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and I had just graduated and moved to New York City when I heard about this movie that George Romero was casting. I'd never met George in Pittsburgh, but of course everyone knew about him. And I auditioned for him for the role of Julie there in New York City, and I ended up going back to Pittsburgh. It was really funny.
Now just hang on to me.
Knightriders was the first time I was ever in front of a camera. We didn't have that training at Carnegie Mellon yet. So I was pretty nervous about it, but I also was incredibly naive in a way that protected me. And George couldn't have been better. He was like the perfect director for a new actor to warm into the film industry with. He was lovely to work with. He empowered me completely. I made these outrageous suggestions that now I would be much more hesitant to do, but at the time, being just so in that artistic mode as a student, I suggested line changes. I added in the scene where Julie is dropped off, dumped back at home with her abusive father. I said, George, what if, I'm sitting on the curb and the light goes on in the house, and I know that my abusive father is going to beat the crap out of me. And he said, great, let's do that. And he set the whole shot up just for that. And I suggested when I stand up out of the bushes without a top on, and Friar Tuck is looking at me, and I said, didn't you take some vows or something? And George loved that. He was so accommodating and gracious and, gentle, big bear of a man. You've seen how big he is. He's huge, but he's a gentle giant. Julie Dean was this sheltered, spirited teenager who had a very abusive father and a mother who was terrified of the father. And she was a little out of control. So she hooks up with this knight at the Renaissance Fair and wants to run away from home and be a part of the fair. She's full of piss and vinegar and a lot of fun. And it's kind of sad when he has to take her home and drop her back off. I wonder whatever happened to Julie. I wonder what she would have ended up doing.
Julie, you're shaking up the beers. Daddy, you're a slob. A fat slob jerk. Mother, you're a wimp.
I was an abused kid. So I knew exactly how Julie felt. I just was myself. Julie was a little braver than I was back in my day, but it was fun to be safely in a position of expressing yourself as a teenager, and wishing I could have done that when I was a teenager. But it took me a while.
Do you ever ride a bike? Well, listen, I gotta go for a little ride. You wanna come? Come on.
I did not have any experiences with motorcycles. I have no desire to be on a motorcycle, but they made it very safe. We were actually on a rig and pulled behind a truck, so it wasn't so bad. Watching the stunt guys on, during those huge battle scenes, impressed me deeply, and I ended up becoming a stunt woman. I think once I really got to know those guys. We shot for like 3 months, and I got to know everybody really well. I didn't really realize that stunts was even an option as a career until I saw it in front of me, these incredibly brave guys, talented guys. And when I came out to Los Angeles, I contacted them, and they were very helpful in helping me start my stunt career.
Holy shit, is that real?
Gosh, I can't remember the name of the town we were in, but it was pretty remote, and the hotel, there was nothing around. It was a small town, I can't remember the name of the town. There was, you had to have a car to get anywhere. And so we really lived in this hotel and ordered out a lot of pizza. We took over, there was a restaurant in the hotel, we would just take over. Oh my goodness, those people, they must have just thought we were crazy. We were crazy.
Alan, you men! We have trouble with the police! Who's she?
Ed had done another film. He hadn't gotten famous yet, but it was some smaller film that George had seen him in. And I was very attracted to Ed for the reason that he was so completely honest. I'd never met anyone like him before, and I used to go to the set just to watch him work because there was something so extraordinary about what was happening with him. He was a force of nature, is a force of nature, and just completely real. It scared the shit out of me, but I loved it at the same time. I'd never seen that before. So yeah, that was really a profound experience. I had known Tom for a few years. He came to Carnegie Mellon and taught makeup and took acting classes and became a friend. And I knew he was, I wasn't in the same class with him, and I had heard that he was a good actor, but I didn't know how great of an actor he was until I saw his work on Knightriders. And that was fun. It was fun. We lived like a family. So we lived in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania and in this little hotel for 3 months. And there were days when the weather was terrible. We actually had tornadoes that destroyed the set 3 times. And so we spent a lot of time together. And it was a really wonderful, grounded group of people. And okay, it got a little crazy sometimes in a good way. We had a lot of fun.
Crazy.
Yeah, they are. They're crazy.
You see, that's what makes them sellable.
The whole theme around Knightriders, in my opinion, it has to do with George's struggle with the creative and the commercial. So the truth is, it's to be a pure artist, it really means you're going to be broke. So every artist, I don't care what kind of art you practice or what kind of art is part of your soul, you need to have a way to pay the bills. And George found a way by making commercial films, and then he could make his art film, which his passion film was Knightriders.
See, the way I see it is this. You got 2 separate fights. The one for truth and justice and the American way of life and all that, that's got to take a back seat to the one for staying alive. You got to stay alive.
For me, as a starving actor, I did a lot of crazy, odd jobs, but what worked out really well for me was becoming a stunt woman, because I'm still working in the Screen Actors Guild. I'm a union-paid performer. I'm on the set. You know, I'm getting to meet people. I've worked with major directors like Steven Spielberg in Jurassic Park, and it was a wonderful experience. Gave me tremendous confidence. But it was my way to pay the bills. And often on a set, I would just be the stunt girl. No one even knew I was an actor. It had a recurring character on a TV series, and I would be working on Star Trek and these other shows as a stunt person, and they wouldn't even know that I had this acting job. And I wouldn't tell the producers on Babylon 5 that I was, doing stunts on Star Trek the next week. It was just my little secret life that I had.
I'm sorry. I don't like this kind of stuff.
I mean, all I want you to do is just, sign your name.
I can't.
Yeah, I think George beautifully made the point about the contrast between the creative and the necessary, the commercial aspect to everything that we do, and how we sell out, and then how far down the road do you sell out. I was so young. I was right out of college when we shot Knightriders, and these questions were not on my mind. And it's only until later that I've really looked at it differently. I mean, at the time, I was so absorbed in just trying to do a good job and be calm as much as possible. But now, in reflection and having faced this myself, you know, how far do you go and take jobs that you don't believe in, and then on shows you would never watch, just to stay alive and to keep your insurance going. It's a never-ending issue for filmmakers and artists, and I think George really beautifully put it all together. Made it funny, you know, made it very accessible, and but in the end, you have to take a stand, and you really have to because your soul will rot if you sell out completely, and you will be a miserable human being. I don't think that we always realize in time the price we're paying for selling out, and then maybe you don't see a way out. You've got children, you've got, you know, a roof to keep up over your head, and these things are huge, especially now. Gosh, it's crazy. So to turn down a job, you'd have to be a little bit insane, but how do you keep yourself from going off the deep end? And Ed's character, of course, couldn't do it, couldn't stay in the world. So, you know, I think George struggles with this all the time. I think we all do.
It's just getting too tough. It's tough to live by the code. I mean, it's real hard to live for something that you believe in.
Knightriders was my first movie, so it was my first premiere. And I was completely terrified. I was so terrified. I really don't remember too much about the actual event. I know that my mother and I flew out to LA. We stayed with a friend of mine from college so we could go to the premiere. My mom was very proud of me. I was mortified by everything because I wasn't comfortable, and I didn't have any experience with this. So, you know, I just felt really awkward and goofy. And I think that the movie had mixed reviews. There were people that understood it. There were people that were disappointed because it's George Romero, but it wasn't a horror movie. They didn't know how to take it. I remember being in the bathroom. I'm in a stall in the ladies' room at the theater, and I hear in the stall next to me, "I thought you were really wonderful in the movie. I love that you let your mascara, you cried, you were really real." And I said, "Thank you," and finished my business, and I'm like, this is so awkward. And out of the stalls, Ed Harris's wife, Amy Madigan. And I thought, okay, I've made it. Amy Madigan thought I was good in the movie. Hi, I'm a star.
I really don't understand this.
No, you don't.
Oh.
I think there's this movement now with everything that we loved when we were young, like comic books and science fiction and the Lord of the Rings and all those things that were fringe and geeky, and also Renaissance fairs. It was all part of, you know, this subculture that now has become mainstream. So I think that Knightriders is getting a little more attention again because it's a Renaissance fair, but also because of the work involved. It's art. It's not mainstream. It never was. But George is an artist, and Ed Harris is magnificent, and the other actors were all coming from a very soulful place. So I think it endures for those reasons, and also, I mean, it's a wonderful story, a sad story, but wonderful, and it's humorous. It's got a little bit of everything, but I think there's an honesty there that people really respond to. George had a way of creating a family out of his work environment. And the people that I worked with on Knightriders, I went on to do several projects with, either doing stunts, acting, or just even production help, just helping out. And that whole team he put together is so loyal. That shows you the kind of guy George is and what he inspires in other people as an artist. So when the opportunity to audition for Night of the Living Dead came up, it was so exciting for me, and I felt like everybody was rooting for me, you know, from I know the casting director in New York had another choice. She didn't want me, but Tom wanted me, and George thought, okay, all right, you know. So finally, the events were all in my favor for a change. We're all still friends. Tom and I see Tony Todd upon occasion, and Ed Harris, you know, I run into his, gosh, it's really wonderful. Ken Foray and I are still really good friends. Everybody's on Facebook, you know. George is now so far away up in Canada, but I'm friends with his wife, and I don't know. George was able to create this special environment, and what transpired, I think, was just really true friendships.
Thank you.